Gathering. Gathering is adding fullness to the body of a garment. Today, this piece right here, we're going to be adding fullness to the bust area. So this would replace putting in a dart. So the fullness is going to be above, and then it's going to sew. We're going to gather it so it sews into the little midriff area of the pattern piece. Okay, so to start off, first of all, gathering, what we're going to be doing is a temporary stitch. So we're going to turn the dial of our machines to 5 or to the largest stitch that we have on our machine. Okay, and once we have that, then we're going to start at the notch. We're going to do a quarter seam. So we're starting right at the notch, and we're going to sew from notch to notch and stop. Make sure that the uptake lever is always at the top. Lift up the presser foot, and this time hold on to the threads, and then clip a few inches away, leaving some thread hanging. If you don't hang on to the threads, it's going to start gathering it up, and we don't want to do that yet. Now we're going to sew the next one, another quarter seam. We're going to stop at the next notch, hang on to the threads, and clip. Okay, as you can see, it started gathering up just a little bit, so you can just flatten that out. Now the next step is sewing a 3/4 seam. So we're going to start at the notch again, and we're going to sew a 3/4 seam from the raw edge. And we're going to go from, again, notch to notch. Needle all the way, press uptake lever to the top, hang on to the threads, and clip. Okay, we'll do that to the next one. Again, a 3/4 seam. Hold the threads, clip. Okay, so now we're going to start gathering this up. So you're going to take the top 2 threads. It's really important that you don't pull the threads on the bottom. You're going to pull the top 2 threads together. So you're just going to gather that up and then slide it across. Gather it up, slide it across. Just like this. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other one. Again, the top 2 threads. If you accidentally pull the bottom threads and you've already pulled the top threads, it's going to lock the stitch and you will not be able to gather it anymore. It's just going to be stuck. Okay, so I have my gathering. Okay, so I've pulled it pretty tight right now. So now I'm going to be ready to sew the little midriff bodice or the midriff area piece onto the top. So to do that, first thing I got to do is make sure I turn the dial back to the stitches between 2 and 3, or on your sewing machine at home, whatever sews a stitch that should be 10 to 12 stitches per inch. And we're going to go back to that because the next stitch we do is going to be a permanent stitch. Okay, so we're going to pin. This is where it's important to have notches. So we're going to line the notches up. Okay, and I'm going to pin where those notches are. And I always pin up and down. I never pin sideways, just up and down. It's much easier to get the pin out. Okay, now I'm going to match the notch with the other notch. As you can see, that notch, those notches will match. and pin. Now, you'll notice that once I do that, you can see that I have too much gathering, and this is kind of bulky. So now I can take some of that gathering out, just a little. I'm just sliding it across, just so that this lays flat. Okay, so I'm going to do that again on this one. Again, your gathering is fairly tight. Okay, a match notch to notch again, pin, up and down, then match the other notch, the two notches here, and pin. Okay, again, you can see on this that there's too much gathering and there's a bulk here where it's supposed to be flat. So that's telling me to take some of the gathering out a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of move that with my fingers just so that lays flat. So now it's laying flat. Okay, so now I'm going to sew the midriff piece and the bodice top piece together. I'm going to start right on the edge, right here, and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam. So this is going to be a 1/2 inch. I'm going to do a back tack right on the edge, and I'm going to sew my 1/2 inch seam all the way across. Okay, take the pin out before you go under the needle, because you don't want to break the needle, and make sure that the two raw edges are laying on top of each other, and then you're just sewing right down the middle of where this was gathered. Okay, take the pin out, make sure the seams are flat and even. Okay, and I'm going to do the last one. Make sure the notches are still right on top of each other, that they didn't shift. And then you get to the other end and back tack. Okay, so what this is really good for is as you can see, these stitches are temporary. So I'm going to pull that basting stitch out, and again, pull the top. If you pull the bottom, it will lock, and then you just have to pick it out with the seam ripper, and that's not fun. Okay, you can pull out the bottom ones as well. So just open, you can open the seam right in here and just pull out that bottom one. Again, making sure that you're pulling the top and not the bottom. Okay, so when it's finished, you can get rid of all these threads, this mess. All right, when it's finished, you'll see that now it's full in the area where there would be a bust. So as you can see on the side here, you have it, it's a nice midriff area where it's like an umpire, and it goes just underneath the bust, this seam, and then this is the bust area. So that is gathering. Now, gathering also can be used not just in this area, but gathering in a skirt. Gathers could be anywhere you want. Remember, they're a design feature. It is what we call design aesthetics.